Good morning, everyone. Jim Laird here from Clearwater, Florida. Once again, beautiful day. Can honestly say it's pretty amazing. The weather here in the fall is just absolutely perfect. So I'm not going to brag on that too much. I know some of you are in cold, gloomy places right now, and my heart goes out to you. So, but what can I say? Yesterday we had a great webinar on detox strategies, and it was excellent. And we had a really good time doing that. There'll be a ton of clips from that put out here in the next little while. We like to take clips from our webinars and put them on our YouTube and our Instagram. So be on the lookout for that. If you want to get in on these free webinars, just get on our email list. Pretty simple. stillmanwellness.com. Little pop-up comes up, 5 biggest health mistakes. Put your email in there. You'll get a little email sequence telling you about the fundamentals of wellness and basic fundamentals, but then you'll get 3 emails a week. So we don't try and blow you up too much, but it is a business after all. So we're very upfront about that. But we want to provide as much value as we can for you and help you guys out as much as possible. When you create as many free, independent thinkers as possible, we need more of those these days. Definitely. And obviously the system doesn't like that, so they don't really promote our stuff that much. So if you're watching this, give it a like. That would really help. Make a comment, say hi. Definitely helps with the algorithm and all the good things as far as that is concerned. So this number one factor for long-term success, and this is probably going to make you think a little bit, which is what I like to do. I really like to challenge people's thinking and make them think in different ways. Self-awareness and living in the moment is really the most important factor for your long-term success, whatever that defines success is, whether it's, some sort of athletic achievement or just generally be healthy. Most people just want to look good and feel good. Being in a good place requires you to be present in the moment. You can't be living in the past. You can't be living in the future. We get in trouble when we kind of go into this autopilot mode where you're just kind of rolling along. You aren't really, you get caught up in this stress mode, and you're not really present, and you're not really conscious of little things like how you're breathing or just paying attention. If you look at people when they're walking down the street, or if they're in a store, they're scrolling on their phones, they're not paying attention. They're just kind of in autopilot. And when you're in autopilot, bags of chips disappear, pieces of cheesecake disappear. You tend to do things that you normally wouldn't do. And you really don't even think about it. It just kind of happens. So if you're doing things like going for walks, and you're observing nature and you're in the moment and you're present, the chances of you making better decisions are much, much higher than if you're in autopilot mode. So a lot of times when we work with people, we have to get them to slow down enough. Like we had a gentleman yesterday we've been working with for about, it's probably a year now. And when I first met him, his decision-making process was basically, let's just do more. Let's figure out how to get it done. Let's, a lot of supplements, TRT, peptides, and it just wasn't working for him. And recently he was overwhelmed. He was supposed to come see us here at the end of the month. And he's got a lot going on with his business, a lot going on with his family. And he wrote us a nice little letter and say, hey man, I've just got too much on my plate right now. I'm going to push my in-person visit off to the new year. And, Jim, I appreciate it, since you're going to be passing my way, if you could stop and see me and help me with some of my workout stuff, that'd be great. But I just can't do the trip right now. It's just too much. And I was so proud of him for realizing that, and realizing that, there are limitations sometimes, and it's okay to prioritize certain things and to adjust your schedule and say no sometimes, and to make adjustments. Whereas this guy's attitude before is, I'm just going to push through. I'm going to do it. And there's a time for that. Okay. There are times when there's emergencies and you just have to get things done. I understand that, but that can't be all the time. You can't be in that mode all the time. And most people, from a psychological standpoint, are in that mode all the time, right? And the same thing goes for things like exercise. Say you haven't been getting a lot of sleep. Say you've got a lot of stress at work. Is that training? It might feel good at the time, but are you actually going to positively adapt to it? So it might be as simple as, okay, I'm going to dial back my intensity a little bit, and I'm just going to move around and feel good until my sleep is back in order, until I'm in a better place. I'm not going to push as hard, which is a really good way to approach it. If you're having a lot of stuff, say you're having to do some extra work at home, or you've got some, crazy business stuff, you dial your training back a little bit. You make it more about feeling good and moving well instead of pushing yourself. And then all of a sudden you get through that phase and you're able to sleep a little bit more. You're able to eat better. You can turn your training up a little bit. So being self-aware enough to look at what's going on and picking and choosing your battles is a big deal, right? And most people just have a heart. The people we attract in our practice are generally not lazy people. And I've always said this: it's much easier to work with somebody who's let themselves go and is a little bit lazy. You can always get them to do a little bit more, especially if you start slow, than it is to get somebody who's a type A overachiever, who, if you give them an axe and you tell them to cut down two trees, they'll cut down every tree in the forest. It's much easier to get that unmotivated person to get moving and to get going in the right direction than it is, because they're never going to do too much, than it is to get the person who's the type A, who's going to cut every tree down in the forest, to learn how to shut it off. That's much more difficult, particularly if they're using exercise or activity or success to deal with a void, or for self-validation, or to make themselves feel better about themselves, right? Because that is a very, most people are medicating themselves through food or exercise or work. They're trying to fill a void through doing more, right? And that gets into some really deep stuff, because I've definitely lived there. I've been there, and I battle that constantly, right? So there's this balance between doing more and giving your body what it needs. And that's a really hard balance for most people to manage, particularly today, because it's so easy with, lights, and, in the past, like when the sun went down, like, you really, like, your day was over, and now it's like, you've got lights, you've got caffeine, you got energy drinks, you've got, TV, it just, the silent time and the quiet time, you can override that, right? In the past, you couldn't do that, but now you can. So you have to be self-aware enough to realize that if you want to go hard, which is perfectly fine, I work very hard, but I also make sure that I get enough time to relax, and I get enough time to chill. And that's going to change as time goes on. If you've got a ton of stress, you're going to need more rest, right? And there's going to be periods of time where you push, like the last 2 weeks, moving out of one house, getting a storage unit, ton of in-person visits. Pushed myself for the last 2 weeks a little harder than normal, and we got through that. I backed my workouts off a little bit, and now I've ramped my workouts back up again. I've had some time to kind of regroup and catch up on some things, and a lot of that too is learning how to be more efficient with a lot of the things that have been put in my lap, and then outsourcing things if needed. So that's a lot of what we do in the coaching programs, is getting to know your specific situation. I was on a call with a lady yesterday who's going on a big trip with her whole family, and she was really overwhelmed with taking care of everyone. And these are all adults. She's like, well, this person needs this and this person needs that and this person needs this. And I'm like, look, let's streamline this. Okay. So one, you're going to such and such location. Let's get on Facebook and see if we can find a group and see if we can find you somebody who does, meal prep or a private chef in that area. And you'll probably, if you go through that person and you order meals through them and you have them prepare certain things, you'll probably get it at the same and maybe a cheaper price than you would if you went to the store and bought it all yourself. Because a lot of these locations, particularly Mexico, Caribbean, places like that, when you go to the store, they mark things up, especially if you're in a tourist area, they mark things up significantly. So if you go to Mexico and you hire a private chef to cook your meals, that private chef is probably going to go to like a lot of the local markets and they're going to treat him like a local and he's going to pay lower prices. So you might end up paying the same having someone else prepare your meals. She's like, well, I never thought of that. Okay. So then, well, not only that, let's set some boundaries for the people in your group. These are the meals that this is what's going to be provided for you. And anything beyond that is your responsibility, right? So you don't have to have custom stuff for every person. This person can't eat this person can't eat that, this person only eats this. Come up with a basic foundational thing. Like, this is what's going to be available to you, and anything beyond that is your responsibility. So that right there, just being a little smarter about your approach, can make things a lot more efficient and a lot less stressful. So some thought and I'm very strategic. And I learned that from my sports coaches, right? Growing up, because, I was always much stronger than the people in my age group. And my coaches were like, okay, that's great that you can overpower everyone, but we need to learn how to use efficiency so you don't have to use your power. I learned that in wrestling, right? So if you can do things in a more efficient way, why not? And then save the brute force for when you actually need it, right? To bail you out of an emergency. So if you can look at a job or a situation, like when I move furniture, can I lift the fridge and carry it up the stairs? Yes, I can do that. Can I lift the washer dryer and carry it up the stairs? Sure, I can do that. That comes the price. I can put it on a furniture dolly and do it myself and make it much more efficient, right? I can use furniture. Like, I moved my entire gym one time by myself with furniture sliders, right? And people are always like, well, why don't you just pick it up? And I'm like, why would I do that? I can only pick up so many pieces of equipment and it has a cost. I can do more work with less effort. And if I have to pick something up, I can. But why not use the furniture sliders? Why not use a dolly? Why not we use wheel carts? And you need to have the same kind of perspective on your life. If you can hire someone to do some of the work that doesn't require, that's just basically busy work, like optimizing certain things or editing certain things. If you can outsource that out and focus on the things you can't outsource, that's a really efficient way to make your life easier. And so you always want to look for efficiency. And part of that is being present in the moment, because if you're constantly just running in your head, it makes it a lot more difficult for you to make these choices that are going to lead to better long-term outcomes. Particularly, sports is a prime example of that. If you have a team that's well coached, has great strategy, and is very disciplined, many times they will beat a more talented team that isn't as disciplined and doesn't have as good of a strategy, right? So you want to use everything you can to your advantage to have the best possible outcomes. And a lot of that requires thinking, and sometimes thinking outside the box. And that's why getting some advice from people who have been there, that have a lot of experience. Sometimes you just need to hear it from somebody else in a different kind of way. And a lot of times you're like, well, why didn't I think of that? And sometimes it's really hard to see the big picture when you're in your situation. You get caught up in it, and it's hard for you to step back and take the 10,000 foot view. And so that's why having a mastermind group or a coaching group is super important. And that's one of the reasons we created the programs that we have, so we could help more people and we could help them help teach them how to do things a little more efficiently, because I'm all for hard work. It's just that if you're going to work hard, you need to do the maintenance on yourself. And then you also need to be able to, the yin and the yang, the light and the dark. You've got to be able to have both. You got to have the balance, because if you run out of balance for long periods of time, you might be able to get a lot done. But you're going to pay a steep price. And time is really your number one asset. You can always make more money, but you can't make more time. So you want to use your time very efficiently, and you want to help give your body what it needs to perform at its best. And your body will teach you what it needs, but most people are not living in the moment enough to slow down and listen to what their body has to say. So I hope that makes sense. I hope that gives you some things to think about. If you're watching this, please give us a like. If you have any questions, any statements, I'd be happy to answer any questions. If you're watching and you want to drop something in the chat. Next week, let's see, what is our topic for our webinar next week? Let's take a quick look here. Should have been more prepared. Let's see, what is it? That would be, I think, the 16th, right? Let's look here. 16th, that's next Thursday. Yep, the 16th. Let's see, what is it? The 16th is going to be hormone secrets, where to start, what to do and not to do, which is great. So we've actually got a really good live next. What is it? Oh, what happened? That's great, because right after what happened after I doubled my hormones, that's on the 14th. That's great. That's based on an Instagram video that Chris Williamson shared. I think Miss Lauren will be joining us for that. So that'll be good. So we got a lot of really good webinars. We've got the 16th is we get into hormones next. And I think we have one that we need to do from blood pressure that the internet kind of went to heck. Oh, and of course, the 23rd is Thanksgiving, I think. No, yes, no. So, but yeah, we have some really good webinars coming up. So, yeah, how to manage being driven on the 7th of December. That'll be a good one. And then we get into gut health in December. I think we're scheduled out till December 14th. And then that's really cool. It's really neat that we're constantly updating our fundamentals of wellness course with like literally brand new content every single week. And then I'm going to add yesterday I added last week's webinar to the course. And right now I'm going to go add the detox. Last week was the blood donation and how it affects blood pressure. And then yesterday was detox. So I'll add that to the course and send out an announcement for people. So we're constantly upgrading that course. It's got a lot of great content. The Q&As we do those all the time. And so it's a lot of fun. So if you want to check that out, you can. But the most important thing is to get on our email list so you can get in on these webinars every week. And if you can't make the live, you can get on the replay, so you'll be able to see it. And then, of course, all this stuff is in our Fundamentals of Wellness Mastermind coaching group. So go to stillmanwellness.com and get on that email list. And we will see you on Monday when our topic will be, what is our topic on Monday? What is Monday? So that would be the 13th, I believe. Is that the 13th? 13th, yeah. And our topic will be, what do crabs in a bucket have to do with your success, or something along those lines, I believe. So we'll learn all about crabs in a bucket on Monday. So you guys have a great weekend. Make sure you take time to get outside. Take time for nature. Take time for silence. Ask yourself this: when's the last time you sat quietly in nature? If you take 5 or 10 minutes and sit quietly, most of you aren't going to be able to do it, right? A lot of people, when we tell them to go do things like sauna and float tank, they just like, what do I do? I can't. Or they go at acupuncture or wherever, where they actually lay down and sit quietly and still, and they can't do it. If you can't sit silently and quietly for 5 or 10 minutes, You got some work to do, because that's a big problem. Because I used to be just like that. I couldn't sit still for 30 seconds without my mind racing. You got to learn how to observe and be present and let go. And so make that a priority. It's super important. Silence is one of the most important things you can do for yourself. So have a good weekend. Get some silence in your life. Get outside, and we'll see you on Monday.